Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Guess we'll just go around the room and take a roll real quick.
Gloria O'Keefe. Darlene Schmidt.
Denise Tyler.
Gagorn. Bob Manhart. Chad Cowles.
Who's that guy? Oh, yeah.
And I guess the very first item will be what we put forward to the board on food trucks. And where we stand. I know they, what was it? They did vote.
We need to approve the minutes from
Oh,
September,
sorry.
or from October, I'm sorry. We need to make the motion to amend the agenda for these are the October minutes that we're approving, and not September. So if you could give me a motion, somebody to amend the agenda to change, because we already approved the September minutes. We need to amend the agenda to make.
I make the motion. Sure.
I shall second it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second it.
All right, now moving into the, where we stand with food trucks.
Thanks, guys. It's not taking my charge.
I'm glad.
Do you want me to talk about the food truck?
Well, you can. I just have one more thing I need to say real quick, is that after you guys make your agenda, after you make your recommendations to this ordinance, or you'll need to go to the board and make your changes. It needs to come from the committee to the board and not from staff to the board. So whatever changes you have that you want to make to this ordinance, you need to do it to the board, and then the mayor can make ask staff to direct the changes to the ordinance. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I attended Alderman meeting and Chad put his voice into, the food truck. One thing that they brought up was the placement of the food truck near their establishments. And nothing was in here. And also, to have something from the, people who own the property. And I found this from Bentonville, Arizona, and it's property owner consent form. That if they, say you want a food truck next to my establishment, and they have to have this filled out. And a certain amount of feet, foot, how far away that it should be, and they discussed the cost, for like a day was $10 too cheap. What happens to people who come from out of area, make like $10 and then make like maybe $2,000 or so, and they thought that should be raised. It's just things, Chad can talk about it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. In the first 2 meetings I attended, I thought I made it pretty adamant. Because I did the research for all these other areas that were doing it, and pretty much every area that I looked into and even Googled on the internet, these food trucks were not allowed to be within so many feet of a brick and mortar restaurant. And that was one thing I was adamant about, because I think he put me on this committee because I am a restaurant owner. I think he put Bob on there as well. Basically, I don't want food truck pulling up in his parking lot next door to me, 40, 30 feet away, and selling wings and burgers out of it. Right next to my restaurant, and I'm here every day of the year open, selling it. I thought we talked about that, and I'm pretty sure everybody was in agreement
Yeah.
on that.
Yes.
But it did not make it to the Board of Aldermen. That's why I went to the meeting Thursday night, expressed my concern about it. Bob feels the same way. He doesn't want Mark Smoke Glass having a food truck over there selling, having a shrimp crawfish boil right 20 feet behind his building. So I told the Board of Aldermen, if they Google on the internet, are food trucks permitted to be next door to a brick and mortar restaurant? And you pull up them pages, and almost everyone says no. Every city has a requirement, and they range from 200 feet up to 1,000 feet, depending on the city. So I think that's something that needs to be added in here. Because if not, I'm not in favor of it at all. That's my opinion. I thought we were all in agreement on that, but somehow it got left out when it went to the board.
Well, I agree on that, because that was a definite discussion we had for a little time, and I thought we were all in agreement upon that also. It did not make the board. But my other question is, apparently you've got documentation where it is held up in the other cities. Make sure the city attorney's on board, Cole, that if he feels like he's comfortable with that too.
He said he was gonna get with me.
All right, good. That's.
He is not yet. But my honest opinion, it's something, I don't know what I feel comfortable with feet away. 300 feet is a football field. In my opinion, that's fine with me. 200 feet maybe, what do you feel comfortable with?
I think it should be at 300 feet. 100 yards, just keep it simple.
I mean,
Could it be adjusted to certain areas or, 200 here, if you're this, maybe the proprietor would say it has to be X amount.
well, I did notice that in a few cities, they reworded it.
Yeah,
Because of cities that have like a downtown area where there's so many restaurants, it was specified that they could be so many feet with a direct competitor. So let's say the church up here can bring in a pizza food truck right next to Pizza Hut because pizza. So they had those rules, and they had other that were general, said any brick and mortar restaurant. Luke's been in the restaurant business for a long time. So I'm sure he would have some input on that as well.
Yeah, the recommendation we went up making to the board kind of happened in a hurry. The motion got made, the second got made, the vote got made before we really fully discussed all the details of it. So there was a couple of things that I think got left on what we ultimately recommended to the board.
What else?
I mean,
That's the one I was most concerned about. That's affecting my business.
I kind of
All
thought
the
the
locals
local
down here.
kind of had, we did it, we made a recommendation, I didn't realize we were coming back to it. So I had to-
this is just clarification, if it's, I understand next door, but if it be across the highway or the road, what do you say?
And that's what I'm saying. All the other cities have feet, there's so many feet away.
Okay,
And
well, that's what I'm asking, I mean, just,
Well, we don't have
Yeah, I
any
have
places here to put them.
no, I mean, that's, like, I was thinking of where I used to be.
Yeah.
It's an empty lot, and there's really no, well, I'll take that back, Trace, and Little Rizzo's is close, so. But I just didn't know if we were talking on the same side of the road. It just,
I don't think so.
I'm not opposed to it at all, I just was wanting.
I don't think it needs to be anywhere near 1,000 feet, I'm comfortable with 200. Bob wants 300 apparently.
So at this point, are we discussing making a new recommendation or making a recommendation to amend what has been, what are we discussing at this point?
Well, I'm gonna step in here real quick. No, the board has tabled it. The first reading passed, but then, nobody knew about the distance. Then another recommendation, from Mark Barrett had talked about,
first reading.
It's just completely tabled.
Okay,
Yeah, the whole thing tabled.
Well, it said the first reading passed.
yeah, it did. So the second
Oh,
reading, yes,
It did?
yes,
Huh.
yeah, second,
Check
reading.
it out in minutes.
Yeah, it's been tabled, and a couple of reasons. One, the feet, which Chad said, hey, you guys talked about, so it's basically sitting in limbo. Another thing that Mark Barrett brought up, and was an interest to the board, was his concern that out-of-towners, for instance, let's say that Chick-fil-A came in from Branson.
Which they do.
And they
can.
Yeah, and they set up and they make $3,000 on a Saturday and they take all their money home, where he felt as though they need, Lee, Miller, Camden County, they're gonna spend their money here. There's somebody from out of state, out of town, they come in here for a day and then they take all their money back and they don't have the opportunity to spend it here. So those are two things that the city attorney is looking at. The feet, I think, since other towns do, it's not a big deal, but can you tell somebody from other counties that they can't do fair market in this county if they pay the fees? So those are the two things that they're looking at. The 300 feet, obviously, if you come up as a group to think 300 feet, then I would suggest telling the board, yep, we all agree 300 feet is good. But the other concern has been out-of-towners coming in.
Yeah,
I guess my question is more a procedural one. Like I said, we've already made one recommendation to the board. Now, what are we talking? Are we talking about making another recommendation to the board at this point? Okay.
Mark's concern was, obviously he kept saying Chick-fil-A because the city of Camdenton keeps bringing them in like once a month. And they bring their employees that come in town, they pay their $10 fee, leave town with $3,000, they're gone. Where the local people, we employ our staff here, they pay taxes here, they go to restaurants, they go shopping, they buy gas here in our town, the money stays in our town. So he's more concerned about Chick-fil-A's coming into town, but they pay a higher fee to get the permit. But Cole, the city attorney, said he was gonna look into the law on that. So that's in his hands right now. My concern is the distance.
Mine also. The other one, that's up to Cole, what can be accomplished on that.
But
If you want to recommend 300 feet to the board, I'd just recommend that, then we can discuss it along with the out-of-town information.
what do you all feel? I mean,
I still think it's too high. We want business here. Why don't we figure out where we want this business?
what do you mean?
I mean, instead of being by your businesses, maybe there's an area they can go there. We can, charge them. Like at the park.
Well, there's a
They were
lot of
all down
options.
there.
There's a lot of options for food trucks out there if you have a 300-foot distance between an existing brick and mortar food facility, restaurant.
In Osage Beach?
Yeah.
Right now, they're setting up.
Wait, to find a place that has a good enough parking lot, like has all the things you need, that also fits that requirement. I don't know that there's an abundance of those spots necessarily.
We've got the one there at the old Deserts Parkway Center.
Next to Woody's.
I mean, isn't that relatively close to, like, Miss Nikki's, which is right across the street?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you got the palm tree place will have that Jamaican jerk one. And then.
And I just I'm trying to picture all throughout the city where the spots where you could set up that would be, because if they're desirable, high traffic location, there's a good chance there's probably a restaurant there,
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying. I don't think 1,000 feet's ridiculous. I'd be happy with 200 feet, that's a little bit over half a football field.
Now, did we discuss, you showed a paper where they could sign a waiver so that they'd allow it?
We did the deal where they have to get the property owner to sign off.
They have to do that now.
Okay, well, that's what, because on KK, we have that, the barista, and every so often she lets one, but she's closed.
But she's right out, she's just outside city
Yeah,
limits.
she's not in city limits.
I know, but it just still,
Doesn't she have a?
And
and she has her own truck.
That's what I thought.
But but this is usually a Sam, I can't think of his name, but, you know, he'll have it there. I mean, he's right outside.
But again, like I said, that's outside the city limits, so that, I mean, there's no ordinance whatsoever.
So do they pay anything when they go there, like the county or anybody?
I don't know about the county.
They should be counting sales tax.
Because didn't the county
They have
have?
to get a health permit, they have to go through the health
There was
department.
help.
But that's good.
Okay, I just was thinking though that they did, if you've said it too, I mean, if they could have, like, let's say your business is closed and they could do it until noon, you know, and you didn't care.
Or at night when people are out looking
Right.
for food.
I'm just asking.
No, I see your point.
Well, the way things are right now, if nothing changed, the current peller's license, they can set up anywhere as long as they have permission from the business owner. They pay their $500. The main thing is here, do you want to institute a lower fee and put a certain feet? And also, do you want to consider at all the counties?
It's like I said, right now, if Bob wanted to, he could put a chicken shack right next to Chad's restaurant.
Actually, theoretically, no, that can't happen. We gotta put it in the bylaws, but we developed that property that, they're going to be with their food establishment.
Okay. Well, that aside,
Right.
somebody, same situation down the road, somebody, you know, right next to Wobbly Boots.
Yeah, that probably isn't the situation, but yet something should be done to give our brick and mortar place a little cushion of the rolling competition coming up to the front door.
Right, yeah, like I said, it's like Hobby Lobby could start putting food trucks down there, and then that's direct competition with tire biters and blah, 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 all those places right there. Right now, they can do that.
You know, I'm a little flexible on the distance. You know, we could go down 200 feet. I agree, half the ball field sounds, you know, easy enough. But we really feel strongly we need to do something to give our brick and mortar that cushion.
I'm just trying to picture in my mind, like I said, I'd like to see, like, try to figure out how, you know, like,
It's tough out there, you know? I mean, yeah, when we bought our property, we had to buy addition, you know, that size of lot, we had to have so many distance of highway to bring in semis at that. That's what the regulations were. So we had to buy that large property and then sell part of it. So, yeah, you know, things are what they are. It's tough out there. But I want to feel like we can give them the opportunity to come into Osage Beach.
We just don't want them next door to us.
We have to have a buffer.
I mean,
These guys.
Barrett's against food trucks altogether.
I think one challenge that I don't know that we've given much thought to is, and I've heard you say you don't want them right now. I don't mind. Whatever we want to do is whatever we want to do. I try to do my best to summarize all the top talking points and try and get that. I know our biggest hangup was the first step was to get food trucks separated from the peddler process.
Yes.
And then the discussion rolled into some of the nuances, like the fees and things like that. Yeah, I know we talked about distance, like in the very beginning, but it might have got lost in the sauce, I'm not sure. But I'm a little concerned if you say a competing product, because I'd be curious, you know, one person's definition of a hamburger versus someone else's, and then you start getting into that kind of thing. And I'm kind of wondering, how do you just blanket 200 feet or do you blanket a like product? Because I heard, if they're selling a similar product, they need to be a certain distance away. But
I think it's food of any kind. Right?
well, and that's fine.
Some cities have.
That's fine. I just would hate to be.
That was hard to do. How do you?
Yeah, you get too much, no. Just keep it, if it needs to be just kept for food trucks. For food.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that, that piece was kind of thought about a little bit.
If you're agreeing with 200, I mean, that's perfect. I mean, I'd be happy with that.
So what you're
So what
saying
do you
is,
think what do you feel comfortable with as far as reconciling this thing, Lou?
Oh, like I said, I'm not really sure. I haven't really put too much thought into the distance part. Like I said, distance. Because
In general, is where you're at.
well, in general, like one of the things I wanted to say earlier was that, and Chad's got into it a little bit, with the exception of Chad, who's been in a few of these meetings. We invited the food truck folks to come and give their side, and we talked to them. What we didn't do is bring any restaurateurs in to talk and kind of get their take on it until a little bit later in the process, once it's already to the board, and it's down the line a little bit. We kind of gave the floor to the food trucks folks, and they kind of aired their grievances, which I think was great, and I think that was kind of my idea. We never did talk to this committee, we never talked to any restaurateurs other than Chad himself. I think we would have got some more input on that, you know, and fully fleshed out what we were trying to do. But as far as, like, we're talking about this, you know, we've already got an ordinance that's on its second reading tabled at the moment, you know, so like, how much influence do we have at this point? And how much time?
Well, I think definitely the feet has raised some interest.
Where is this listed?
Well, and we're kind of on a hold until legal gets back on the current schedule, for sure, I would imagine. So, and
Okay,
that's,
so is there other things you wanna review on this thing, Luke, since you aren't,
Well, like I said, the original communication with the attorney that Corey had, that for whatever reason didn't get distributed to the group, you know, we never really saw that to look, you know, that, I agree. I wanted to look at that kind of, we had what Cole brought back to us, we just kind of voted on it. And I don't know if anybody even actually read the whole thing, you know, it just kind of happened in a hurry.
it did, I agree.
But I, you know, like, I kind of moved on. Like I said, I think I didn't come to this meeting with any particular agenda or anything necessarily, because I was, like I said, if we're gonna talk about distances, I think that's a good thing, but I think we gotta really think about what distance, you know, because what does 200 feet really mean? I'm trying to picture in my mind, you know, like I said, a football field's an easy way to think of 300 feet.
Yeah.
Then I'm trying to think of, is there any brick and mortar restaurants? You know, I'm just trying to work my brain, I'm just trying to know.
Understand.
well, my goal with the attorney was, one, to send the summaries that I summarize at the end of every meeting. I sent those summaries to him to give him an idea of what the questions were. So when he came to the meeting, he'd be prepared to answer those questions. So our opportunity to get with the attorney on any kind of questions we had, he was sitting right there. So I apologize if I left off one or two talking points that we talked about way early in this process. But again, the purpose of having him come to the meeting was to address all of our concerns so that we could get a proper ordinance submitted to the board and have it voted on. It just, I did not hear anything about distance while we had him here, to be honest. So I'm not saying it's not a bad thing to talk about, but I didn't hear any of that mentioned at all when he was sitting here in this room. So now but that's why we have the process that we have, and we have multiple votes. So now we can go back and address those, the things that we missed.
Do you want some time to look at, seeing if there's anything else?
Well, it depends on what we're, like I said, I'm just trying to wrap my brain on what we're doing at this point anyway. We're just gonna recommend to the board, we think we should put a distance in and come up with an arbitrary number.
After the attorney gives us his recommendation on what he feels can be.
Right, so we can't do that tonight anyway.
Yeah, true. So I'm saying there is time, if there's something else, I want to hear, you know, about what your opinion is.
From what my understanding, what the attorney said the other night was, the only thing he's looking into is, this different feed from
Yeah,
people from
her distance.
counties, 5 counties away.
Yeah.
He was like that. He didn't really say, wasn't really gonna look, I mean, he said he'd get with me, but, I mean, it's just easy, just get on your phone and find it. I mean, pretty much every city had them, anywhere from 200 to 1,000.
So,
You can look it up on your phone right now, it'll pop up page after page.
to resolve this, do you feel comfortable about going ahead and approving 200 feet as far as the vote tonight? Or do you want to table this till we hear back from what the attorney says in regards to the distance of traveling, you know, how far distance their home base is from our Osage Beach? Because that's what the city attorney is looking into. What's your?
What you gotta do, their next step is you guys have to figure out what you want, and then Corey has to go to the board and recommend what changes you want in the ordinance. So if you guys want to add the 200 feet, you can. The attorney's not gonna do anything without direction of the board. So he's not gonna he's not gonna do any more research until the board directs him to do something. The board is the only one that can direct staff to do anything. So you guys make your recommendation, if you want 200 feet, or you want to change a fee, or whatever you want to do, Corey's got to go to the board and ask the board for direction. So the board is the only one that can change an ordinance, do anything from there. So if you want 200 feet, Corey, you go to the next meeting. This agenda is already set, so it'll be the one in December. So it'll be the first meeting in December, we can put it back on, and we can put the discussion back on, and then he'll say, the our committee has decided we'd like 200, 300 feet added to the ordinance. The mayor can direct staff to come and change the ordinance, to amend that, put the agenda, fix that ordinance. I'll amend the ordinance to through 200 feet or whatever you guys want it to amend to, and then we can start the process and get it back on for a second reading.
Would we have to have a specific number, or could we recommend to the board to add some sort of, and let them,
You should probably go to the board with what number you
A number.
think is good, and then the board can either say, yes, it's too much, or no, it's not
well,
enough.
because I mean, that's kind of what happened with the fees too, because
Yeah.
it's not like our direct recommendations to the board is what the board adopted in the fees with the number wise, you know?
Correct.
They took our outline and
And they may think the fees are too small, or they may think it's too much, and they have the option to change it once you get there. But Corey needs to go in and say, look, this is our recommendation, and then the board can discuss and make recommendations for staff to change it.
so
But the
there's no
attorney's
reason to
not
cut
gonna
on
be
the number
calling you.
itself, 'cause-
Yeah.
But you're saying, you're recommending that we recommend a specific number, even though that number.
Correct.
But I would like to recommend the 200 feet.
Now, my next question, excuse me, Chad, is we have a question for the board, should we make sure we have, include the question in regards to the distance of travel to their home base to Osage Beach?
That is something Cole was gonna look into.
But do we need to submit
You need to
both?
submit it to the board, and the board can direct Cole to look into that. Yeah,
We have
Cole
to
will
do it
not,
that way.
Cole is not going to do any research without direction of the board.
So we need to give him direction on that also.
You can ask Corey to ask the board to have staff look into that, yes.
So how do we approach that? Two different recommendations?
Yep, just put it in a recommendation, and Corey can write and say, look, this is what the board, this is what our committee would like staff to look into, and the board can direct staff to do that.
Is there anything else?
And would that be the pricing too? Like how much?
So there's three things.
That's already been done, though.
Well,
We could, unless we recommend a difference to that too.
I know that said that, but, the board kind of said that $10 was nothing.
Okay, so let's go back, so Chad has a motion on the floor, so let's start with that motion first. Chad, you want a motion, what's your motion you want to do first?
200 feet.
So you want a motion, Chad's gonna motion 200 feet,
Second.
okay, and then Bob's gonna second. So then you can ask for discussion if you want.
I think we've already discussed it.
200 feet,
Anything
fine.
else? Anybody else?
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around 200. I mean, like, is that the right number?
I think so.
I mean, again, part of me was just to say whatever, because it doesn't matter.
My main concern is I don't want them where I can throw a rock and hit their food truck. Okay, they're that far away, I'm fine with that.
I'm just saying, I think they might be surprised, you might be surprised if somebody parked 200 feet away, how far or close they actually might be.
Yeah. But from my property line, it would be your property line, right?
Soon.
Not the
I mean,
building
you have to
itself.
specify that.
That means
Property
the
line,
parking
not the building
lot is
itself.
included, right?
So should be worded.
Yeah, property line.
Property line to property line.
The property line of where that person is setting up, or to like the front of the cart or the truck or whatever.
Property line,
Because you can, like I said, using Hobby Lobby as an example, you can park at the far end of the parking lot, you'd be 200 feet away, but if they park at this end of the parking lot, they're not, but the edge of the property is,
right?
Like I said, I'm not sure, I'm just working my brain, I'm just, like I said, I'm trying, this is new stuff, because I
I
wasn't
think
prepared to talk about.
probably the food truck itself to the brick and mortar restaurant property line. I mean, that's like liquor laws. How is there liquor law? It can't be within 500 feet of a church. You know, how is that?
Property line to property line.
Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, I think we need to simplify it and maintain the same.
Yep.
Second, okay. And Bob seconded, all right.
Any other discussion?
So like a food truck wanted to go on in the outlet mall, in the middle of it. Their radius would extend all the way out the entire outlet malls. Like, so basically, you couldn't park, like even if you wanted to go to the back of the outlet mall, you couldn't do it because you would be within 200 feet of Vista Grande.
Right. Or there was existing food establishments at the mall. But there used to be.
Right.
Yeah, but so, yeah, I mean, you gotta, that kind of protected them a little bit also. But now, I'm just thinking of the Hobby Lobby situation, Luke, myself personally, I mean, their property would be, be a factor in regards to Little Rizzo's and Montecito's.
Right. You know, you could physically get the truck 200 feet away, but you couldn't get the property lines.
Correct.
So, like I said, I'm just talking, I'm just working, I'm just talking.
Yeah, we need to have a basis on that, that's for sure.
Wish I knew how much 200 feet were.
See, I'm trying to keep picturing my brain different, like I'm picturing Wobbly Boots, like where could the nearest food truck to Wobbly Boots be? Because with all the other establishments in the area, it would start putting.
That's just a part of the town where they'd be screwed, they wouldn't be able to park.
Right, I know, I'm just, again,
I mean, like,
when you put something in, there are other implications and you gotta work with, you gotta think about them.
Why can't we put it on this side where they need this? There's plenty of room here.
Well, again, those few places that are here though, probably like their exclusivity being the only, you know.
So when you say property line to property, are you talking about the physical truck's location to the competing business's property line?
That's how I would understand it, yes.
Or is it the property line that the business is on, or that the food truck is on, the property line of that?
That kind of takes away the whole idea of being mobile,
Yeah.
does it not? I mean, that's the whole idea of being a mobile food.
They are mobile.
Right, but the truck can be, you know what I mean?
Right.
If you're doing property lines to property line, I mean, that's kind of taken away from the whole idea of being a mobile food truck. I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to work through, that's what I'm saying.
He's going, I think
You can't just, you say 200 feet, we haven't really decided what 200 feet means even yet. Does it mean the food truck from the property line, or the property line the food truck is on from the other property line?
I think we need to establish a distance 200 feet and let the council, the board, decide on if that's too much of an extreme or not enough. But we have to have something, I mean, as far as distance wise, when you stop and think about it, let's see. You could park up from Wicked Village, you could park up at Puttin Stop. Food truck. Distance wise.
The GoPro trailer.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Scottish Inn, 200 feet is not that much. I think our property distance of Wicked Village and Squirrel Reef Seafood is, I think, 260. So it's not that bad. I mean, really, you can leapfrog in there. We're trying to make this to where it's fair for the food trucks to come and do this in the city.
I'm just trying
Can I
to.
make a recommendation? Leave it at 200 feet, and it's not your problem to figure out, it's the food vendor's structural problem to figure it out. Just leave 200 feet and call it good and move on to the next subject.
I agree with that.
Let's move on, all right. So, it's not your problem to figure it out, it's the vendor's problem if they have to find the location. Let's move on. Okay, sorry, I hate to be, let's move on.
got something in the crock pot.
No, we're trying to solve a problem that's not your problem. The vendor, they need to figure out where to park.
Right.
Right, so,
They'll have to.
But if we're restricting them,
again, they need to figure that out, that's on them, they can figure it out at 200 feet, and then the board can figure that out. And we can sit here all day, I'm not trying to be bossy, but I'm just saying.
Well,
You know?
Like, let's say an ice cream truck came in next door to Pizza Hut. I'm just saying, is there gonna be a conflict there?
I think so. I think that's
what I mentioned
That's
earlier.
my understanding.
what about Snowball?
Unless the
Well, I'm just saying
restaurant owner
any-
signs off on it.
We could put that in
We
there,
could
we
go
could put
for-
that in
I
there,
guess
too,
if
to
we-
say, you know.
Unless the restaurant signs off on it.
In regards to
Yeah,
that,
that's,
was
if they
signed
sign off
by
on
the
it,
restaurant owner.
then it'd be all right.
That's a good point.
You wanna vote on this, you can go vote it down, you can rewrite your.
I would like to add, unless the restaurant owner signs off
There,
on it, they can do it.
We
That would
can't
be
do it that
fair.
way, so let's vote this one down and we can redo the order, you redo your motion. You can't just amend an order, we have to vote this one down and then redo your motion.
Okay.
Sorry.
Alright,
We got
well,
rules, we gotta.
I'm not familiar with the procedure to vote something down, so.
So you just, it's safe to take a vote and then everybody can say nay and this one will fail. And then we'll redo the vote.
A vote on what is-
This. You didn't make a
So we're
motion.
gonna take a vote.
You didn't necessarily make a motion.
I don't have a rule.
We're gonna
He
take a vote.
said I make a motion.
But did we vote on it?
He just said, I think we should. He never said, he never made a motion.
He did, he said I make a motion in the beginning,
Who said that?
Chad did.
We're gonna take,
It sounded like a motion.
We're gonna take a vote on, the previous motion, and whether or not we're gonna try and pass it at or turn it down. So,
Is that right?
So, but then we can add the second one that we just submitted.
That's right.
Okay. I'll say vote down the first one we just did.
Nay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You just voted for it.
Nay.
No, to take it down.
Say, all those in favor?
The motion on the table right now is Chad's
Okay,
motion.
got it.
Yeah,
All those in favor?
nay.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion fails.
I like that.
You want to
Now,
propose the new one?
now the proposal is a motion to recommend to the board to establish a 200-foot distance, minimum distance for food vendors without, unless waived by the affected property owners.
From property line to property line. That's where we're at, right?
Unless what? I didn't hear
I
what you
don't
said.
know what that, the property line to property line.
I think that's too
I
much.
think it's 200 feet from the property line unless the restaurant
Signs
is
off.
away.
Correct.
There you go.
Who's making the motion?
I am.
Chad.
Second.
What's the motion?
What motion we doing now?
Which is that right there. She
Chad
does
makes the motion to do what?
from property line.
What's your motion,
unless
Chad?
The owner says
To
nay.
That
Recommend to the board
200 feet.
200-foot minimum distance from property line to property line without, unless waived by the impacted property owners. I think that covers it, right?
And who seconded it?
I do.
All in favor?
Any discussion?
Yeah, any discussion on it? I think we've killed this one. And
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion passed.
All right, good. Now, the other one with, the other potential with the costs, I don't know that we can recommend anything on that. Well, there is another potential motion on the floor to recommend to the board to explore charging different rates depending on,
Distance of Osage Beach versus their home base.
well, and I'm trying to figure out how to
Home
work it
base.
How do you work that?
based
I
on.
wonder what the majority of them that we already have are though.
Most of them are.
I guess it would be distance of their home base from Osage Beach. yeah.
Because they have to have a commissary.
That'd be
Right.
home base, yeah.
Can it be like a zone? They're within 50 miles of Osage Beach. They're at this rate. They're 100 miles, just a little bit more, 150 miles, 200 miles, slowly increase.
Well, we don't even know if it's even feasible.
Feasible.
Right.
That's
That's,
the recommendation.
yes.
that.
And I had a feeling that the board members themselves were gonna talk about that amongst themselves. Am I wrong on that, Phyllis? Because you guys brought it up in that meeting,
They brought it up.
but it's something we have to recommend first.
Or maybe you could just simply recommend that the board investigate tiered billing based on miles from Osage Beach, and leave it at that.
That's a lot simpler.
A lot simpler.
That's good.
Just have a radius back.
That was my whole beef with the whole
And then
thing.
put it on
It's a former restaurant guy.
based on distance from Osage Beach. That's my suggestion.
That sounds great. It's a lot simpler.
Yes.
Could you read that out? I'm sorry. I didn't catch all that.
Tiered billing distance, or tiered billing
Have the board investigate.
balance on distance from Osage Beach.
Tiered billing distance from Osage Beach. And then.
I'm just curious how that would affect our, you don't think it would affect any of our current people right now?
Most of them are local unless you guys bring them into the city park, you know?
But that way, that gives the opportunity for the city attorney to take a look at it. And it's off your plate.
I'm in favor of that.
You should make that motion.
The question is, we did have recommendations on billing though, where there was different billing based upon the event. So if they were coming to a city-sponsored event, there was a different fee for that.
Yeah, that's in there.
Yeah, I see that. Then.
So-
I think I can stand.
The tiered piece probably wouldn't apply to that particular.
Well, that's city-sponsored event. If they come to a city-sponsored event, then it's totally different.
So like, well, but you mentioned, going to the park, that's a city-sponsored event, so they would be subject to the tiered billing.
Correct.
That, unless we want them to be. I'm just saying that the way I would understand it, that it would be.
I think that event is good for the community. It gets a lot of people out of the house and they get out there. They get out for the day and spend a lot of money around town.
I mean, it kind of a slap in the face to invite somebody and then charge them more, so
Right.
kind of a little bit of that too.
Yes, I agree.
I would like to make a motion that we go with the mayor's recommendation to the board.
To have the attorney look into it.
Yeah. Yes.
Second.
To do zone billing or tiered billing, whatever you want to call it, radius from Osage Beach to their home
Yeah, that'd be
base.
interesting. Second.
Any discussion?
It's just to investigate it.
Yes,
Yeah, just have a look. We got to do this.
to look at the legality of it, if it's legal to do that. What do you ladies think?
Some of these businesses, like the restaurants, aren't their home in another area? Are they here?
No, we're talking about these food trucks have to have a home base. They have to have a place on land where they make the food, prepare it,
Yes.
load it into a truck, then drive to where they're gonna set up. So it's
Okay.
their home base where their kitchen is located.
Okay, that's.
I think that's what we're getting at, right?
That's mine. All in favor?
In favor.
Any opposed?
Who seconded that? You?
Bob,
All right, so when it comes to the food truck, is there anything left that was of concern?
I don't have anything.
That was all I had.
And they're all valid concerns. My apology, they didn't get wrapped up in the initial, was kind of a rapid fire vote there. but,
Things happen.
All right,
What's next?
now signs.
Oh, I gotta say something about the signs. I never noticed how well they are. I go down the street and I'm looking at them and I think, geez, they're really nice. The signs on our street, the main street. I don't know how that happened, but they're nice. So I don't know what the problem is.
So, based upon our last meeting, we had there was a top discussion about residential signs and limiting residential signs, both in number and in size. And there was kind of a discussion about should we do some sort of math around residential signs like they do for business signs. There was this discussion about how the city said they would do wayfinding signs, but didn't fund it. I know, Luke, you brought up something about mobile signs. I'm trying to remember what that was about. And then there was the,
One of them was about like the way that the ordinance is written with the wrapped vans and trucks and stuff like that, and or signs on vehicles.
Right.
The way it reads, we don't exactly live by, which, whatever.
Right.
I have a question. I wasn't at that last meeting. So what do you mean when you're talking about residential signs?
I believe it says you can only have one sign.
One sign,
So like during a political election,
yeah.
and it doesn't specify political election, but that's the type of thing.
I thought you were talking about like signs for condominiums or subdivisions, neighborhoods, that's what I thought.
No, there's a whole other section.
Residential signs, what I didn't know.
Oh, so these are the portable.
Like yard signs.
Yard signs.
Okay.
And the way it reads right now, it can only be 2 square feet, but most standard yard signs, whether it's real estate or
Okay.
political signs, are 3 feet square. So, all those vote for X that you see in neighborhoods are technically legal
Mhm.
as it stands. And you can't have two of them. So you couldn't support two candidates.
That'd be a tough one.
Kind of,
But if you had
I think I've had like 8 at one time, it's kind of.
sewer, I mean, if it's different topics, can they have more than one?
No, you can't, when you talk about signs, you cannot talk about the topic at all.
No.
Once you get into that, you start getting into First Amendment stuff. It has to be content neutral. You can't have any kind of, none of your ordinances can have anything to do with the content of the sign.
It's just signage.
Just size and shape and lighting and
But if-
No,
location.
sorry, before we get too far down Sunset, Mary, did you have, something?
No,
You want to do your discussion and then you can get out of here? You don't need to see the signs we don't.
I don't know.
no,
Oh, okay.
no, I appreciate it.
No, if you want.
Just double check.
No, I appreciate it. No,
I know the board has some questions around, the food truck stuff.
no,
didn't know
I think,
that was your,
no, we got that cleared up.
okay,
No,
great.
no, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, sorry.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Carry on.
There's so much you didn't have, so that's what you need to do.
Okay, now back to that. I know neutral, but number, like if there's, like somebody's really opposed to, I mean, a person, and then they have another source in their front yard, can they or can they not? I don't have that.
You're saying the current ordinance, you can only have one sign in your yard at a time.
one.
Temporary signs,
So if you
a property owner may place one sign with a sign face no larger than 2 square feet on the property at any time.
So what you're saying is the mayor runs, you got a sign for him. In the same district, Alderman runs, you can't put that in there.
No,
Not the way I read it.
well, that's what I was asking. It seemed like when there's different topics,
no,
but, I mean,
Well, and that was the concern, legal brought up at the time was, you open this up. And so, yeah, we're all talking about putting signs out for our political candidates, but there are other signs people can put out. And there's not gonna be any way to say no to that. And that would be the one challenge that you put forth in opening this up.
Are they all limited to amount of days you can have them in your yard? And you have one sign there year round?
Yes.
no, there's something about taking it down.
you have to take down political signs.
That's political, yeah.
Yeah,
Or if you have an event, like the lights, you put a sign up, it has to go.
I don't see a limit
Yeah.
on duration.
It says at any time, a property owner may place one sign with this sign face no larger than 2 square feet on the property at any time. So, I mean, I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a political, it doesn't have to necessarily say post salute. It could say, I support Israel, or I support Hamas, or
Yeah.
I support Black Lives Matter, or I support whatever.
Garage sale.
Yeah,
That's why I was asking if it can be permanent.
yeah, I mean, it's called a temporary sign, but there's no time limit to it, because like I said, because it could be an issue sign that's evergreen, like I said, I support grandparents. There's no,
Right,
there's no season for that necessarily.
right. For football.
Right, yeah.
Take Chiefs sign out there. That's what I'm asking where the current law reads.
That's the way I understand it. And then you can also have one temporary sign when you can look at a property.
What page you want?
12 of 23 on this one, the sign ordinance one.
So based upon all that I'm hearing, is there still a desire to change the number of signs? The more crowds?
I think the sign, it's, how many pages is this? Like I said, I think we found several issues.
I mean, I know it's big, but I think when we had the city here at the last meeting and they went through this, I think everybody walked away with a kind of a head nod, understanding that, I mean, I kind of walked away with a better understanding of what this was about. And, there was a few areas, those are the ones I tried to summarize a little bit, that we had some questions around, but I don't know, are we trying to look at,
Well, my main thing was the fact that I don't think we got answered was the fact that there's a lot of stuff in here that we don't enforce, that you could walk around town.
That was quite the discussion with the attorney, I remember that, as far as, we are, I remember the list that we went over with the attorney in regards to what we had submitted to him
Before he got here,
before he got here. And then, you know, after listening to the attorney, how, you know, what problems there are in town are pretty well addressed in this thing. And what parts do we really want to start changing that aren't functioning okay now? Because the problems that exist now are covered in this. It's the enforcement issue of the policy is where I think we're all up to speed on more so on how this thing works out as far as working with the problem that's out there, how the public can address a problem that they feel needs to be looked at. And that's what
I mean, there's a difference between.
basically, if anyone complains, I guess you get a couple complaints, you go out and check on it.
Right.
That's
I mean,
what I took away from that meeting.
There's a difference between not having a policy and not able to enforce it versus having a policy and able to enforce it, but maybe we're a little lenient on it because the true requirement to go out and drive down the road every day.
I agree, but why have something on the books if you're not gonna enforce it? Because then we get to start picking which things we enforce, and which things we don't. Just because it's on paper, well, we're not enforcing that one, why should we enforce this other ordinance that we're
I
enforcing?
don't know that this committee can fix an enforcement problem.
No, but I would have never thought about the city sign ordinance until I was asked as a committee member to look at it, right? I had no beef with it coming into this at all. And once I look into it, it's like, well, wow, there's a lot of stuff here that either that we shouldn't enforce and we don't enforce.
I've got a
Then
quick
that's
question
important.
for the city officials. Is there anything in the sign ordinance that you've gotten a lot of complaints about from citizens?
Yeah,
That they
that's
feel is
what
unfair? Are there any topics in there?
No, the reason I brought this up initially was because when I ran for mayor, there were some people that were upset about signs. You had an issue with the sign. And then I know Amy had an issue with the sign. Some people want to promote their business, they couldn't.
Yes.
We also had an issue, I can't remember the name of the gal, has a business. She wanted to put a sign facing the bypass and she couldn't do it. And they're like, why? Because you exceeded the square footage. So it was enough of an issue that I brought it up for the board, and mainly it was for businesses that were not allowed to promote their business the way they wanted to.
So, especially the rule followers, somebody who follows the rules, but then somebody else will go out and just do it, and if they're not gonna get enforced on anyway, just do it.
So that's why it was brought up.
So like on the back
That's,
side.
I hate when rule followers get punished.
Oh, I agree with you. I can name a couple of them.
Not very much more money to follow the rules.
Are they doing them illegally?
I really agree with that.
It's like the
Like
YMCA,
tire biters?
people coming in and trying to find it.
But that's why I brought it up for the committee. Quite frankly, when you just read about the yard signs being 2 by 2 and only one, I had no idea.
That was interesting. Yeah, believable, but.
I'm thinking like my yard, I had several.
So, I know we have an enforcement desire, I'm sure everyone would agree, but I also think, you know, the city did a fairly good job of explaining that it's just impossible. The enforcement is done through complaint, I guess, if you would say. Someone complains and then they go out and check. But the rules are here, so there is something to enforce versus no rules at all, so. So we do still have an outstanding kind of a discussion item, if you will, on the residential sign count. Then we also have this, 405, 370B4, which says the city will fund wayfinding signs.
Will fund what?
Wayfinding signs. Business directional signs posted by the city of Osage Beach for business located blah, blah, blah.
Like the
It was back before the
YMCA.
bypass,
YMCA.
and basically at the top of each lake road, kind of like what you see as you go down HH, which is, these are all businesses down here.
Yeah.
The city had in their sign ordinance, a mechanism where they could, if they so choose, put up these signs at each whatever, but I think it never got funded back then, and B, when the bypass came through, it kind of became obsolete.
Well, yeah, so, right, just to be specific, it says, commercial secondary collector street is not visible upon approaching the intersection. A business directional sign may be erected on public property. Such directional sign shall be constructed by the city and shall be of the type determined by the city. So that's what it says.
And also it was like a fee of $3,000 a year, something like that,
Well, I don't,
for the business to have their name on that sign.
I don't think.
which wasn't very large anyway. There's
That's
a fee
the
there.
roadblock signs, right?
Yeah.
It's the same idea, it's the same idea.
Only, it was lit up and
Yeah, it was-
a built structure.
It was $30 per month for the business.
How much?
30 per month.
Okay, so it's $360 a year, all right.
So,
For just
but
a
the-
small sign which the
So-
city chose not to do it because now they felt like it would not be cost effective.
Well, that's probably part of it, but the challenge that was kind of investigated is that businesses are told that you can't, businesses that had wayfinding signs had to take them down. Then they're told they can't put them back up. But then they put this clause in the rules saying that the city will provide wayfinding signs, but then they didn't fund it.
It's very beneficial to our tourists that don't know where they're going, these lake roads down here, so I'm kind of in favor of them. But then again, with today's technology on your GPS on your phones and in your cars, it's kind of mute.
So the question that we had pending is, do we remove this entirely out of the thing? Do we recommend it? I don't know how you make a recommendation that the city fund what's in the rules, or go so far as even one of our members said she couldn't attend the meeting tonight, but maybe they'll pay for it. If the city has an
Exactly.
approved,
I don't
if the
think
city has an
should pay
approved
for it.
design, they'll pay for it.
That was Amy's the one, and she has that property, La Roca, and she has no sign on
There's a
it.
sign out there, I drove by it here a couple weeks ago, there's a sign out there, it says Y Airport, and there's a space there for her to put a sign.
They took it down.
No, there's a space there, it's empty. There's a sign there that says the Y, the,
In between.
and then there's a rectangle area that's
Somebody
open
needs to
that could hold something, but anyway, I even Googled her place up, it took me right to it. Because she was saying Google was not correct with, getting people, to her location. But I don't know,
I just think it's definitely this clause probably needs to be looked at, either fund it or take it out, or.
probably needs to be taken out.
My opinion on it, I don't think the city should have to pay for a wayfinding sign for a business. That should be on the business owner himself. Then again, if they were allowed to put up a sign, I think it needs to be two codes that the city approves of, and I think they all need to be identical and the same. Like,
Chad, you've been around long enough, you remember when at the top of each road, there'd be like 15 different signs telling
Oh,
you.
yeah, tell you what.
So they were trying to clean that up and make it consistent.
which it should be, and it should be.
That was when the lake roads were, yeah, I mean,
They were numbered.
it's not that important anymore because time and modernization took care of it. There's still lake road signs.
Yeah.
But as far as the need for the city to invest money and spend money to put up signs on the lake roads, I think we're beyond that. So I think that if anything needs to be taken out.
Yeah.
Well,
It doesn't hurt, that's when it doesn't really hurt to be in
What
there,
about-
because it's like, it's a mechanism where they could do it if they wanted to, if another
Yeah.
board came along and
But the city would then have to find out what kind of cost factor that would be, because that was an issue at the last meeting, that was brought up. Carrie had mentioned that it'd be just outrageous now with the cost. They did the study years ago before the bypass went in and all that. Well, look what kind of cost factor we had increases on, as far as electrical and all that stuff, and building an actual structure. And for the most part of it, what good you get out of it with a sign that's maybe 24 inches long by 8 inches tall for the business? Would you really want to spend, $400 or $500 a year? Probably be more like $1,000 a year now. So I just don't see it where it's necessary. I have to agree with that. I think things need to be cleaned up, a few things in this sign ordinance, and that's one of them.
The one word that I heard you say, on public property. Now, is that city or state? I mean, it's public. That's the one word I heard, because when most of them, if you're on city, if you're along the main roads, that's state property. And if you're on public, on the side roads, there's not much the ditch.
Well,
Does the state have any of that property?
Carrie brought that up in regards to it's just not feasible to happen. It just can't happen because of all the different regulations. He brought up, he had several different drawings and things like that of all the different, how it actually laid out, how it modified and changed. Anyway, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, but that's
That's
the
what the
one word.
general consensus from Carrie was, it just, Carrie Powers said no.
So what we want to do is take that part out of, is that what we're talking about?
The part about the city funding?
Right.
Yeah.
Essentially.
In regards to, I think she was talking about the line item where let's see. Business owners should be able to put signs on public right of way. I just don't think that could ever happen. That's not how it works. From what I understand from Carrie Patterson. Which, in my point of mind, having a business and been in business for several years down here, you cannot put signs in where the electric pole is. You can't put any signs in right closer to that. That's the right of way, and you have to stay behind that. If you put them, in between that area, they're gonna pick them up.
I agree.
Well, and I mean,
So-
but you could argue that the city wants to encourage businesses moving, and if they put business that's off the main drag, it would be beneficial.
Well, here you go. I agree with that, but
Just throwing
also,
it out.
when you buy land off the main drag, you pay a lot less for it. When you buy prime property, you're gonna pay a lot more for it. So you're paying for that highway frontage and exposure. And now, I'm just saying that's fine and dandy if the individual wants to do it. And I fully understand them needing it in today's world, competition, but the feasibility just isn't gonna happen. That's how I understand that particular line there. But now, that's just my opinion. That's what I took away from that meeting that was, the last month we had.
I'm in agreement with that.
The next one was the mobile signs. I don't know, Luke, if you want to revisit that one a little bit. I know it was kind of one of your main concerns.
Well, there's temporary promotional displays, which one day.
Yeah, that was the last one I had on my list.
Well, then the moving signs too is the other one, because when it talks about the flyers and banners and stuff like that, because we see those all up and down the street with those poles.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Carrie Patterson stated that they should all be taken out. As far as that they're against the city ordinance.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, they're everywhere. You're right.
I think the thing, and then the other one was, the temporary promotional display. I think you asked, had anybody ever actually used that?
Right.
And the answer was no, right?
No.
What was that now? I'm sorry. It's on a truck? Is that what you're talking about?
The temporary promotional display equals 70%.
It's 405.
Basically, if you want to put a big stack of like hay bales and stuff around Thanksgiving.
Right, got it.
Or like the Gumby deals, to go back and forth, is that?
Well, those are, is that same category?
They're the
I
same
think
as the
those are
flags.
not supposed to exist either.
Yeah.
If I remember.
That's right.
Moving signs which all over any part of the sign moves or which appears to move by any means of losing, fluttering, or rotating. This prohibition includes, but is not limited to pennants, stringers, or propellers. So even like when Kids Harbor does their blue propeller thing all over town, that's technically.
Well, there's several things in that category where
Put out
what
on
existing
flags
and
and
what's
put out
allowed.
letters that
I don't know if you want to open that
I don't think.
up or not in regards to trying to clean all that up, but
Well, it's like I said from the very beginning, I'm of the opinion government can't tell me what to do with my property anyway, That's my general stance. I understand there are restrictions and limits, but that's my starting point on anything, right? So I'm more or less, this thing should be 2 pages, in my
I
opinion.
understand.
But I know I live in a fantasy world with that.
No, I wouldn't call it fantasy world.
No,
That is the,
Were there any other concerns that we missed around signs? That anybody can remember?
so my question to you, Mr. Mayor, you're running for campaign, do you feel that those ordinances are too restrictive on what you're doing?
I think a lot of this just needs basically cleaned up. And there's a lot of common sense in here. I kind of agree with Luke. Why have something in there if you're not gonna enforce it? And by the same token, you know, I mean, I know almost every business out there has one of those open signs that technically, well, okay, well, and I've been told, well, as long as they have one, I'm not gonna say too much about it. Well, okay, so what if you have three? Who gets to determine that? And if all of a sudden somebody's allowed four and they're allowed two, and they tell this person, well, you can only have two, well, two is still not right. I just think it needs cleaned up. I think there needs to be some
Well,
common
it's
sense
what,
involved.
and Carrie brought this up, what this can become is a tool used by people who are maybe in conflict with somebody else. You're mad at your neighbor, and so then you start turning, you start picking through this thing, and you just start sending the city guys over, go check this guy out, he's got, because like I said, you really read this to the letter on so many things.
So we want it where it's not nitpicking on property owner's rights, but, where was I going with this?
We don't want, nobody wants the lake to look trashy,
Exactly.
is the
This
deal.
is where I was going.
But your opinion of trashy and my opinion of trashy may be two different things.
Right.
I still can't find it.
I have not
Which
read
one are you
over
looking
this.
for?
So do you think we need to go over this thing more in detail, Mayor, and kind of start cleaning up some of the incidentals that don't belong in there, that we don't feel are enforced? You know, we have to be a lot of discussion on that to take out, because once it's there, it's there. But I understand your point too, because there's a lot of cleaning that needs to be done on this thing. Is that what you're kind of wanting to,
Well, the reason I brought it up is because we had some businesses that were complaining about the sign orders. That's why I brought it up.
okay, I heard
And
that,
so,
understand.
once you get into that though, then you see page after page after page, and I mean,
There's a weird carve out because on 4th of July, you can put a sign up. Just one day out of the year, you can put a 4th of July sign up. And I'm a patriot, I believe in 4th of July, I just think it's weird that we took the time to put a line in there for that. Why not Christmas? Why not Veterans Day? Why not?
In other words, what you're saying is let's take out what we don't need in there.
So have you all read all this paper? Because I have not.
Yes.
I have not.
I would like the opportunity to go through this, and I'd like all of us to go through that and highlight the items that we don't want in there. Then
We did
meet
that,
again.
that 4 months ago, Chad.
and see if we are all.
Done that.
And email it to everybody. Did we get that?
It came out an email early on.
Then I will have it.
Yeah, this came back from, gosh, I said, this came back from September.
Maybe.
I would like for us to sit down and go through this and highlight the areas of concern. Let's meet again and see if we all match up on the same things. If we are 80% all in favor of moving this, then we just start going from there.
Well, it makes it easier for
And then we'll have
the
to
staff to be able
the
to
attorney
do what
make
they
sure,
need to
you
do.
know, if we're not out of place here before we recommend to the board. But yeah, that's the bottom line.
I don't see how we're gonna be out of place. We were called together to do this. Am I right?
No, Cole has to be able to direct us what's enforceable or not, as far as if we take.
Because the problem is, we'll get sued real easy on your side. There's
Well, he can look at our recommendations and say, no, we can't do that.
Right,
Do that.
you'll have to go.
But we can do our part before we send it
I
in.
agree with you.
This is the one about the movable signs. Signs attached to, painted on, or placed on any vehicle, including a trailer that is parked in public view or private property. This provision not construed. This provision not to be construed as prohibiting the identification of a firm or its principal products on a vehicle operating during the normal course of business or parked after business hours. Here's where it gets weird. Provided parking takes place as inconspicuously as possible, and the duration of parking does not exceed the period of 16 hours except on weekends or holidays.
So, perfect example of that would be Wobbly Boots. They pull their catering vans out by the highway during the day and they take them back at night. Is that where that's getting at?
They don't take them back.
They used to.
They did.
They used to.
I don't think they do anymore.
No,
Well, I know they did. Mark told me they had to take them back every night. They had to move them. The kid would be parked in the same spot every day.
Medicals as one too,
Well,
I'm not talking about any specific business, but I know that there are
sometimes.
businesses that do not move them.
But they were supposed to, is what they said. Well, that's right. Right? Is that what I mean? Okay.
Carrie said I don't want to hear about the
So,
ball, you know.
Well, it's gone.
Delivery
Pardon me?
on their farm, that's bad.
It's been moved.
Oh, is it gone? Oh, my.
the bowl?
Maybe somebody's been listening to our meeting.
They need to paint.
So I would like to make a motion that we have time to go over this in detail and
I don't think you need to concern that.
I don't know these rules, I'm just.
Well, that's kind of the goal, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do, is make sure we summarize what it is we want to ultimately make a recommendation on.
I agree with that.
And, yeah, you know, this,
Keep that in mind where I already.
She just emailed me one.
I just emailed
Pretty
everybody.
Well, maybe I,
Okay, good.
I didn't know I got this email.
Can I believe this? is-
so if we don't have any other discussion on this, or everybody just want time, so.
Motion adjourned?
No,
Well, sounds good.
the
Your
mayor's
section.
topics he wants to
Oh,
discuss.
She just
Oh,
emailed me.
hold on.
Okay, good.
I thought the mayor was trying to get out of here earlier.
We're finished with.
No, I told you, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. No, I was just gonna, today, just for the heck of it, because I do have a couple of ideas, but I just went on to our city ordinance, and the general purpose of the Osage Beach Citizens Advisory Committee is to provide for the sharing of information between the residents of Osage Beach on matters of public concern and to assist the city fulfilling the City of Osage Beach mission statement. So the reason I say that is, the reason we brought this up again is come up with the ideas, your thoughts, but talk to the people in the community, get their input to bring them to us, and then let the board pick and choose what they want to do. So with that being said, I was even on the radio this morning, I did not have a topic, I was thinking about it all week, because I knew I was on the agenda. But one thing that keeps being asked of me from different constituents is, there's a lot of people that feel like we should have a swimming pool.
Oh,
for-
yeah.
For residents. And not that the, you know, people that come in can, but where the people can go exercise, indoor pool, very expensive. But my point being is, I'm not officially putting on the agenda yet, but give that some thought on the next meeting, because I would like you to go out in the community, talk to some folks. And I don't know where the funds would come from, but a lot of people that expressed they would love to have a swimming pool.
So would I.
And so, yeah, I know you would, yeah.
Like related to water.
So-
I was on the city council in Camden when that pool proposal came up, and we had basically killed it for 2 years, and then it had passed afterwards, and I still hear that they wish they hadn't had the pool. You know, most cities will tell you if they could blow the wheels up on the pool and give it to you, they would.
I know, and it's very, very, very expensive, so, but I owe it to the ones that came to me to at least bring it to you, to give us some thought, and I'm not putting it on the agenda yet, but maybe a discussion down the road.
Just curious, how does the YMCA funding work for something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Donations.
That's where it should be, the
Yeah.
YMCA.
Well, it'd have to be,
Where does the city stand on the dog park?
it's not,
Used to be signs out here,
Was that?
the two dog parks you guys are gonna build. How's that coming?
Oh, it's part of the master plan. Nothing
The
been,
little one here, the big one?
yeah, it's just part of the master plan,
Okay.
different subject, but yeah, it's not funded
Good
yet.
point, so,
good,
and I'm sure a lot of people are.
Yeah, so give us some thought, and
Realistic.
Yes,
deal.
the master plan does not have a pool down at the park. Could it have?
it's already been completed, and not, they can't do another one, but I just go and talk to the folks in the community, and maybe let's have a discussion on it.
I've heard it, oh, how many times? It's crazy that we don't have one.
And I've heard that too.
Kind of hard to teach kids.
Once you got all these things.
Well, we've got the lake, but it's,
Yeah.
We
there's a
don't have that
difference.
many kids. Think about that.
Depends on where you're at.
Hmm.
Go to a high school game.
But I don't want you to get too or think it's too complicated. Your role basically is to give the board just your suggestions, and then they run with it.
Right.
Good.
I mean, the one at Camden is owned by the city, right?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Well, did you ask them how they got their funding?
The what you said?
How they get their funding for it?
I didn't hear you say.
It's Camdenton.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, there's different grants available for that.
The high school uses
Talk to them,
that
make sure
pool,
and see
too.
how they like it now.
But they
That's the
go all the
interesting
way
part,
over
is
to
talking to cities and
Sunrise
see what
Beach.
they're just a maintenance nightmare.
Or
And they're
Big-
expensive to put in and
This
it's
is
even
not
worse to
open
maintain.
limits.
But
Ah.
that's for the people, and that's one of those things
But
that
that's-
needs to
they
be
go
looked
to
at and put a vote
aquatic
forward to
center
the
over
people,
in-
because it's gonna be a costly
Sunrise
adventure.
Beach.
Off of Old Road. And
That's all I
then
got, whole
park.
thing.
Not concrete.
That was the mentality back in the seventies of
I went and saw
the
Jesse and all.
city of Camden.
Anyway,
Had a big
we
lake.
found.
When does everybody, what's everybody's, meeting time look like for the next meeting? I know we've been doing, what is it, the first Tuesday?
It's December, so.
First Monday.
Yeah, we've been doing Mondays, and that's what
Mondays.
I'd rather do a different day.
Monday's fine, I mean, for me, I don't, what about everybody else?
Mondays are not great for me. I've had to call out of work the last 2 meetings for this.
Oh, that's,
Tuesdays are good for me.
I can do Tuesday.
Tuesday's fine.
Oh, wait.
Now, here's the deal, the Chiefs play on Monday night
Is
football.
it
Well,
the
if the
first
Chiefs play on Monday
Tuesday?
night football that night before, then I have to work that Tuesday instead. It's the
Is
Chiefs
it-
radio show that plays on Monday nights.
I might
Is it the
suggest the
first
second and fourth Tuesdays.
Tuesday, the first and third Tuesdays are not gonna work, and the board is possibly changing their meetings to the first and third Tuesdays. So that, yeah, possibly, but that is,
Well, what about the second Tuesday?
let me check the calendar.
That would be, well, I won't be here,
So that ain't gonna work either.
So that's why you picked it.
unless somebody else wants to. Or fourth Tuesday, but that takes us way down into Christmas territory.
That's Christmas.
We're not
Like,
meeting again in
I'm busy.
November? Is that what I'm getting?
This is November, so when,
Yeah,
We were doing it once, I mean, we can do it more often if you guys want, but we were on a monthly schedule. So
Okay,
That worked
I'm asking, I mean,
And I think we talked about when we had like bigger projects and we were working on stuff, like it makes sense to maybe go twice a month, but I don't necessarily think we're there right now.
So right now, it looks like we're gonna have to do a one-off for December, whatever.
December 5th?
Hey, what about Wednesday? That's always.
No.
Oh.
That's, yeah, Janice can't do Wednesdays. She's got belt wire and stuff.
That's hard for me to do Wednesdays.
I remember this.
I make you.
Does anybody have a problem with December fifth?
Where's
That-
that?
That
That's
could possibly be board meeting.
What
Oh,
happens
that's right.
with the alderman?
That's right.
Couldn't we
We
do
set it for
that?
that, very good to move.
Do what? What about Thursday?
that's too tough for me to do a calendar and try to get that set up, so I prefer not to even do a Tuesday or the first or second Tuesday. First or third Tuesday of the month.
Are there, what about the Wednesdays and Thursdays? I mean,
No
Wednesdays out, Thursdays.
Thursday,
Are those okay?
That's only one a month.
if that's what you guys wanna do. Right now is for the board meeting,
What
but
about
Well,
December seventh?
figure this out, and then
The 7th?
Yeah, anybody have
That's on a
problem with December
Thursday.
7th?
what is
Thursday?
that?
7th, it's on a Thursday. Okay.
If that
Hold
works
on.
for them,
How
I
about you guys?
I'm good.
Is it a go?
Hold on my part.
I'm trying to think, I don't have anything else.
As long as I'm out of here by 7, I can be here.
It's after 7.
Well, discussions
Well, I'm talking
too,
about on that day.
discussions too was moving all meetings to 5:30.
I'm fine with that.
You know,
I'm fine
that
with
was,
going
oh,
I can go early.
you know, so,
It's up to everybody.
We've got staff.
You wanna move it
I'm
to-
retired.
You wanna move it to 5:30?
I can move to 5.
That'd be all right with me. Be great.
What about Tara?
I'd be all about it.
That's it.
3 o'clock would be amazing for me.
There you go.
That's the way to be.
So it's gonna be
December
fine.
7th at 5:30.
5.
What, 5?
I-
12-7, we're on.
I'm good with 5.
Is
It
that,
doesn't
That's fine.
Yeah,
If
That's-
you guys.
I'm
want to-
works
retarded.
better for me.
I'm retired. so-
5 o'clock? Oh, God bless you guys. It's the best thing I've heard all day.
so
Thank
it's
you.
5 o'clock
Are we
on
free
the
to go
7th?
now?
We got a
December
motion.
7th, 5 o'clock.
We should do all things at 5 o'clock as far as I'm concerned, yeah. I mean, really, I'd be all
I
in.
can sit around twiddling my thumb for an hour.
Yeah, that's kind of what catching up on paperwork.
Yeah, I'm
Well-
shocked to see you still at work.
I know.
5:45 when I pull out.
I know, I tried to be early bird, I'll tell you for sure.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
Make a motion to,
I do. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
yes, sir.
Aye, aye.